long-term back-end veteran players that are screwing this all up. That just all sounds insane to me. When it comes out of my mouth, every time it comes out of my mouth, that you have players that are vice presidents of the players union for one league owning a different professional basketball league. It's just baffling.
Pause for a second. One of the biggest stars in the WNBA is now telling players not to sign contracts. Not just any player either. Breanna Stewart is a co-owner of Unrivaled, a brand new league that directly competes with the WNBA. And she is out here leading the charge for players to refuse deals. That alone should raise eyebrows. A lot of them. You have a player who is wearing 3 hats at once. Active WNBA star, vice president of the Players Union, and part owner of a rival league trying to pull talent away. That is not a gray area. That is a clear conflict of interest, yet the media is mostly tiptoeing around it. Here's what actually happened. The WNBA sent out qualifying offers to free agents, which is standard process under the current agreement.
Andrews come out, and she's over at ESPN, and there's Alexa Philippou talking about the WNBA discussing a moratorium proposal that would apply to an upcoming league business, including free agency qualifying offers and core designations, which were set to begin as early as Sunday. Breanna Stewart said that while qualifying offers may be going out,
almost immediately, the union called for a full stop, telling players to not sign anything. Stewart was front and center in that push, using her union role while also benefiting from a competing league staying strong. That overlap matters, even if people don't want to say it out loud. Now the league made a move that caught everyone off guard. They lifted the negotiation freeze and sent those offers anyway.
The NBA and WNBA, very smart. Very smart. They came out, they said, you know what? We're under a moratorium here. Let's start sending out qualifying offers.
Using the existing CBA rules. These contracts are based on the old pay system, the one where max money tops out around $250,000. Nobody expected a rush of signatures. That was never the play. The real move was psychological. Players now have real numbers in front of them, not slogans or promises. Then they compare that to the proposed new deal. Under the owner's offer, those same contracts could be worth 5 or 6 times more. Some players making around $100,000 could jump to nearly $500,000 in the first year. That is life-changing money. That is years of income sitting right there, while union leadership is telling them to walk away and wait. And waiting hits different when careers are short and injuries are real. Public sentiment has shifted fast. Early on, the story was clean and powerful. Women athletes deserve fair pay. The league is finally profitable. Share the upside. People backed that message without hesitation. But then the optics started slipping. Inflatable rats outside arenas, a billboard truck rolling through Manhattan, social posts that felt more like call-outs than negotiations. What started as a labor fight slowly began to look personal, and once that happened, the support wasn't automatic anymore. This is where casual fans started slowing down and asking real questions. The biggest one was simple. Why are players talking like ownership has been robbing them for years, when the league itself has never actually made money? That part is not opinion. It is public record. Since the league launched in the late 90s, it has operated at a loss every single season.
None of them. And it's common knowledge. It's common. I mean, there's sports fans that don't give a rip about the WNBA that knows it's never made a profit. Why? Because it's been a running joke forever. And then, of course, it also got a lot of publicity when Brittany Griner got locked up in Russia. Yeah, that was a thing. But nonetheless,
the NBA has covered those losses year after year. That reality has been well known for decades. Yet during these negotiations, not a single player or union leader has openly acknowledged it. That silence is loud. Here's the part nobody wants to touch. Even people who do not follow women's basketball know the WNBA has struggled financially. It has been a long-running punchline in sports media. The league only broke into mainstream conversation in a major way after Brittany Griner was detained in Russia in early 2022. And even then, a lot of the discussion wasn't about basketball. It was about why she was overseas in the first place. The answer was obvious. Domestic salaries were not enough to live on. That part was fair. But now the landscape has changed, and there is real money being offered. The owner's proposal would raise max contracts from roughly $250,000 to over $1 million by the end of the deal. That is not a small bump. That is a massive jump. Top players would see pay increase several times over, while middle-of-the-roster players could earn 8 or 9 times what they make now. That kind of money changes lives, and this is not about the household names, not the stars with shoe deals, commercials, and national visibility. This is about the players most fans cannot name. Roster spots 6 through 11. The players grinding without endorsements or backup income. Right now, many of them are renting modest apartments, stretching paychecks, and flying overseas every off-season just to stay afloat. Under the proposed deal, those same players could afford homes. They could build savings. They could rest instead of risking their bodies in foreign leagues every winter. The gap between the current system and the offer on the table is the gap between stress and stability, between surviving and actually building something. Yet the union is telling these players to walk away, to keep pushing, to wait for something better. That raises the question nobody in leadership seems willing to answer. Better than what? Better than a massive raise. Better than money that changes lives. At some point, people start asking when the fight stops being about fair pay and starts being about power and leverage instead. That leads to the option nobody in union leadership wants fans thinking about, the uncomfortable one. The league does have another path if talks collapse. They could keep moving with replacement players and rookies. And here's the reality. Look at what is actually driving interest in the WNBA right now. The biggest names pulling viewers are on rookie contracts.
Talking about. And let's be real. What if the league was like, well, we're going forward with replacements and our rookies, which I don't know if that can happen. I know they're currently under contracts. But let's face it, a lot of people have brought this up. Just get replacement players. Think about all the rookies, and they're all star. Like, much of the stardom in this league, almost all of it, is people on rookie contracts. Think about that a minute. I mean, Rickea Jackson, Sonia Sintra, Paige Beckers, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Aaliyah Boston. A ton of players. And I understand.
Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Rickea Jackson, Cameron Brink before the injury. The spike in ratings, ticket sales, and media buzz this season came almost entirely from first and second year players, not long-tenured veterans. That matters more than people want to admit. A league could realistically build full rosters using recent draft picks, younger players, and overseas talent looking for a shot. Toss in a few G League level players, and most casual viewers would barely notice a difference.
At all. I'd be willing to bet they would look no different. Oh, I'm tuning in for Caitlin Clark versus Paige Beckers. I'm tuning in for Caitlin Clark versus Sonia Cintron. That's still all on the table. Angel Reese is out. You get my point I'm trying to make.
The headline matchups would still exist. Clark versus Paige Buchers next season would still draw eyes. Clark versus Camila Cardoso would still trend. Those players are locked into rookie deals, and they are the reason fans are tuning in. The truth is uncomfortable. The games people circle on the calendar are not centered around veteran players making over $200,000 a year. The buzz is built around youth, new faces, and fresh storylines. That does not mean veterans do not matter. It means the leverage calculation is different than the union wants people to believe. And if this drags on long enough, that imbalance becomes impossible to ignore. This is where the union's position starts to look shaky. The loudest voices pushing for a work stoppage are veteran players, the ones who have spent 8, 10, even 12 years in the league. They feel shortchanged for most of their careers, and that frustration makes sense. They carried the league through years when attention was low and money was tight. But here's the hard truth. They are no longer the main reason people are watching. The league does not rely on Breanna Stewart to pull new viewers. It relies on Caitlin Clark. It does not need Diana Taurasi to trend online. It needs Angel Reese and Paige Buchers. Over the last year, the entire power structure shifted, and the strategy from veteran leadership has not caught up to that reality. That is why sending out qualifying offers was such a sharp move by the league. It forced every player to step away from group messaging and make a personal decision. Do you stand with veteran leaders fighting for long-term principles, or do you accept a contract that immediately changes your financial situation? That question hits differently depending on where you sit on the bench. When you zoom out, the owner's offer is not small. It is historic. Massive salary jumps for top players, huge raises for mid-level players, better travel, better facilities, better resources across the board. It is not flawless, but it is substantial and real. Instead of narrowing negotiations to details, the union escalated. The focus drifted into social initiatives, old grievances, and demands for acknowledgement of past disrespect. Some players want apologies for years when investment was low, even though the league was losing tens of millions annually. Those feelings may be valid, but feelings are not leverage. You cannot negotiate retroactive respect. The protest tactics play well to the most dedicated fans, the ones already fully locked in. But they push away casual viewers. From the outside, it looks like players are rejecting money that would change their lives and asking for more without a clear end goal. That is when people start questioning motives. Here is the uncomfortable part. Ownership can afford to wait. Players cannot. The NBA has supported the WNBA for nearly 3 decades. Profit has never been the requirement. It has been treated as a long-term brand investment. If a season is delayed or even lost, the NBA absorbs the cost and moves forward. Players do not have that luxury. They lose a year of income. They lose momentum at the exact moment the league finally has real mainstream attention. Careers in this league are short, and windows to earn are even shorter.
Wow, this was such a smart move. I mean, the league's not dumb. They know these players are not going to sign those qualifying offers, but it gets the players to thinking about their money and where they want to go. And I've seen people go, oh, well, there might be a 3-week off season and it'll be exciting. Really? I mean, the way this league's run, you need all the time you can get. Again, how many times have I talked about how Bush League some of these telecasts look?
When a star like Breanna Stewart urges players not to sign, it sounds like unity. But it is also easier for her to say. She has ownership income. She has endorsement deals. She has financial stability that most players will never touch. The 6th player on a roster does not. That player is looking at a qualifying offer that could change her life. Then she looks at union leadership telling her to turn it down. At that point, it is fair to wonder whose interests are being prioritized. The league understands this dynamic. That is why the offers went out. The strategy is simple. Let individual reality chip away at collective discipline. Abstract ideas are powerful until real numbers show up with your name on them. Professional sports is still a business. Players without major endorsements cannot afford to burn a prime earning year for a strategy that may not even improve the final deal. Union strength depends on total unity. Unity is easy when the injustice is obvious. It is much harder when the offer on the table would make most players wealthier than they ever expected. Ownership knows that. The union knows that too. And now every player has to sit with that decision privately. The real question is not if unity cracks, it is when. How long before one player decides that financial security matters more than symbolism? Once that happens, the pressure multiplies. One signature turns into 2. Then the entire strategy starts to unravel. The league shifted the conversation away from ideology and into hard numbers. They made the issue personal, immediate, concrete. Now the union is asking players to reject life-altering money for reasons that are getting harder to explain. That is not traditional bargaining. That is mental pressure. And judging by how public opinion is moving, the league may have calculated this moment perfectly. There is another angle here that has barely been discussed, and it cuts straight to leverage. The union keeps talking like every player is on equal footing. They are not. The stars at the top have security. They have sponsorships, appearances, off-season income, and now even ownership stakes in alternative leagues. Sitting out a season hurts, but it does not wreck their lives. For the majority of players, that is not the case. Most WNBA careers are short. Many players are in the league for only a few seasons. Missing 1 year is not a protest. It is a major financial hit that might never be recovered. There is no guarantee of another contract. There is no safety net. That is why blanket messaging from leadership is risky. It assumes everyone can absorb the same sacrifice. That assumption is not reality. When union leaders speak publicly, they talk about collective power. Privately, players are doing math, rent, student loans, family support, medical bills, long-term savings. Those pressures do not pause for labor disputes. And that is where cracks form. It is easy to push solidarity when the cost is abstract. It becomes much harder when the cost is missing the biggest paycheck of your career, especially when the offer is already far beyond anything the league has ever paid before. This is not greed versus principle. It is survival versus symbolism. The longer this drags on, the more that gap widens. Players who are barely hanging on financially are being asked to gamble on outcomes they cannot control. Meanwhile, the people urging patience are insulated from the worst consequences. That imbalance changes how messages land. It changes trust. And once trust slips, unity becomes fragile. This is where everything converges. What started as a fight about pay has turned into a test of leverage, patience, and reality. The league put real numbers on the table. The union raised the stakes with symbolism and pressure. Now every player is stuck in the middle, forced to decide what matters more in the moment. For some, this is about legacy. For others, it is about survival. The public sees players turning down contracts that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. Owners see time working in their favor, and players without safety nets are quietly doing the math, knowing their careers do not come with second chances. This dispute is no longer theoretical. It is not about slogans or social posts. It is about inboxes filled with offers that could change lives overnight. Once that reality sets in, unity gets tested in ways statements never prepare you for. If one player signs, the pressure multiplies. If several do, the entire strategy shifts. And if none do, the league waits, knowing the cost of delay falls hardest on the people with the least margin. That is the gamble on both sides. This moment will define what the WNBA becomes next, not just financially, but structurally. Who holds power? Who sets timelines? And who absorbs the consequences when negotiations stall? The real story is not what gets said publicly. It is what happens quietly behind closed doors, in locker rooms, group chats, and personal bank accounts. That is the stuff you will not hear in press releases. And if you want to stay ahead of where this is really going, the leverage shifts, the back channel moves, and the decisions players are wrestling with right now, keep your eyes on courtside leaks. Because the next move will not be announced. It will be felt. We've got every angle covered, every leak, every backstage twist, every moment they won't show you. Hit like, subscribe, drop a comment, and share this video. Stay locked in with Courtside Leaks, your home for the truth behind the WNBA headlines.